There it is. It happened. The Philadelphia Eagles have fired offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo. Let's talk about it here. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are, how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. We knew in the aftermath of that Eagles loss to the Niners in the wild card round that Philadelphia was going to move off of Kevin Patullo. We didn't know when that was going to happen. Tuesday, January 13th. The Eagles moved swiftly in order to make a move that Nick Sirianni needed to make. Here's the statement from the Eagles head coach, who, of note, really good friends with Kevin Patullo. I have decided to make a change at offensive coordinator. I met with Kevin Patullo today to discuss the difficult decision, as he is a great coach who has my utmost respect. He has been integral to this team's success over the last 5 years. Not only to the on-field product, but behind the scenes as a valued leader for our players and organization. I have no doubt he will continue to have a successful coaching career. Ultimately, when we fall short of our goals, that responsibility lies on my shoulders. An important line, too, to add to all of this in the Eagles' statement as an organization, they're making a change at offensive coordinator. They left the door open that Patullo could remain on staff as the Eagles' offensive coordinator. And yesterday, during locker room cleanout day, all of the offensive players had an opportunity to really back Kevin Patullo and say, we want him back in 2026, to have some offensive coordinator continuity and consistency. Jalen Hurts had that opportunity, but he said it's too early to talk about that. If Hurts really wanted Patullo back, he would have said as much himself, because he's the face of the franchise and the leader of this organization. He didn't do that, and this is the right move. Now, before we continue to dissect all of this, this is why you subscribe to the channel. When breaking news happens, we cover it right here on Eagles Now, and we do it at a very high level, and we do it very quickly after that news happens. So hit that sub button and subscribe to the channel right now. My reaction to all of this, those of you who watch this show, I've been saying this for a really long time. This is a move that needed to happen. And Nick Sirianni's loyalty to Kevin Patullo cost the Eagles a wonderful opportunity to repeat as Super Bowl champions. In a wide open year in the NFC and in the AFC, just across the league, with a Super Bowl caliber defense, all the Eagles had to do was be competent on offense to represent the NFC and get back to the Super Bowl. They couldn't even manage that, and Kevin Patullo was a big reason for that. This was the most expensive offense in the National Football League. And if you're Jeffrey Lurie and you're Howie Roseman, you're leading this organization that puts an emphasis on offense, that cares about offense. They come away from that Niners game sick that they could only score 19 points in that game. And in the final 5 games against playoff caliber teams this season, Philadelphia could not score more than 19 points in any of those games. It's unacceptable. And when you're Jeffrey Lurie and when you're Howie Roseman and you're investing this much capital into the offensive side of the football, they simply need to be better. The biggest issue with Kevin Patullo as the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles was his lack of play calling feel and his lack of play calling sequencing. You watch Vic Fangio call the game of defensive football. You watch Kyle Shanahan call the game of offensive football. They have a feel for what to do and when to call certain plays. It is a huge strength of theirs. They have an innate feel for how to call a game. Kevin Patullo never had that. And after the opening script, which at times I liked when there was some creativity, Patullo lacked in-game adjustments, and that's why Philadelphia averaged under 10 points per game in the second half of games this season. This Eagles offense in 2025 is going to be remembered as a unit that had so much star power, but they were stale, predictable, vanilla, conservative. It was a high school offense with absolutely no identity. And that's something that Jalen Hurts had talked about yesterday, that we need to get back to having a home base, I think was the terminology that he used. And what he meant by that was having an offensive identity, which the Eagles did not have from the start of the year until the end. And when the playoffs came around, they hoped and were hopeful that they could flip a switch and turn it on. But they couldn't do that. That's because the play caller wasn't good enough. He was in over his skis and not cut out for the job. I will also add this. Part of this 2025 blame and the failure that this season was, it's on Nick Sirianni. He's the one who promoted his buddy and Kevin Patullo to be a first-time play caller and offensive coordinator for a team that has Super Bowl aspirations. He's the one who never made a switch at offensive coordinator. And at the end of the day, this is Nick Sirianni's offense. But I will also add this. Some people like to rip Sirianni and say, he's an offensive mind. Where's the offensive acumen? He's not that good of a coach. The scheme stinks. At times, yeah, the scheme isn't all that great. It's not what Kyle Shanahan is running with the Niners. It's not what Sean McVay is running with the Los Angeles Rams. But it is a scheme that has worked when the Eagles have had legitimate play callers. In 2022, they made it to a Super Bowl, and they were explosive with Shane Steichen calling the plays. In 2024, they were the best running attack under Kellen Moore, and they won a Super Bowl. And Kellen Moore was known for being a pass-happy guy. So if the Eagles can just get a good offensive coordinator in here, and they can run it back with all this talent, I do think that the Eagles can get back to being a better offensive unit in 2026. But these numbers are not going to cut it. 19th in points per game at 22.3, 24th in yards per game at 311.2, 19th in yards per play at 5.2, lack of explosives. They were 24th on third downs. Now, they were number one in the red zone, and that's something that Patullo can hang his hat on. I like some of the things that he did with Dallas Goedert, some of the pop passes and the shovel passes and the handoff to him in the wild card game against the Niners. Some of that stuff was good. Eagles also at times relied on the tush push to score in the red zone. Outside of that, mediocre to bad all season. The Eagles did not score in the second half of 6 games this season. There were 2 games this year in which Jalen Hurts did not complete a pass in the second half of games. The Eagles scored 9.5 points per game after recess in the second half of games this season. That is flat out unacceptable. Now, there was some good, but this speaks to the talent on the offensive side of the football. And I know a lot of people are feeling down about the Eagles right now going into 2026 because of what transpired in 2025 and the ugly nature of that playoff loss to the Niners. But if you're an offensive coordinator, you're looking at this team right now, and maybe you're trying to become a head coach once again, or you're an offensive coordinator and you just love calling plays, designing an offense. You look at this offense, you could say to yourself, man, there is so much potential with the currently existing roster right now. I mean, Jalen Hurts had more than 30 touchdowns for the 4th straight year. Saquon Barkley, in a down year, still had over 1,000 rushing yards. A.J. Brown had over 1,000 receiving yards. Devontae Smith did as well. And Dallas Goedert had a career year. 11 touchdowns at that tight end spot. Philadelphia now will have their 5th offensive coordinator since Nick Sirianni took the job in 2021. He started off calling plays. Then it was Shane Steichen for 2021 and 2022. It was Brian Johnson in 2023. It was Kellen Moore in 2024. Kevin Patullo this year. And look at the list of offensive coordinators that Jalen Hurts has had over the last decade. If you want to nitpick and rip Jalen Hurts for poor play or at least inconsistent play, context is important. And this has to be added that he hasn't been able to work with the same offensive coordinator for 2 full seasons in a row. You go back to 2016 at Alabama, Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian. 2017, Brian Dable. 2018, Mike Locksley. 2019, Lincoln Riley. 2020, Doug Peterson. And then all the OCs that I just mentioned during his Eagles starting tenure, which he started starting games in 2021 up until now. No offensive coordinator continuity, and that's going to be the case once again in 2026 as he learns a new scheme with a new play caller and new coordinator. Today's poll question is this: do you agree with the Eagles' decision to fire Kevin Patullo? Type A for agree, D for disagree. And if you're disagreeing with this move, you're either somebody who hates the Philadelphia Eagles or you're a narc. This Eagles hoodie t-shirt was $60. It's now on sale for just $42. All you have to do is use that link down below in order for that deal to apply. It's chatsports.com/Eagles hoodie shirt. Chatsports.com/Eagles hoodie shirt. You can wear this any time of the year. Plus, it's Nike. It's awesome. And you can rep the birds. Get yours today, but you have to use our link in order for that discount to apply. So I talked about this yesterday. The Eagles offensive coordinator targets. Brian Daboll, Todd Monken, Davis Webb, Mike McDaniel, Scott Loeffler going to lead the list. Now, Scott Loeffler isn't leading the list because I think he's one of the best candidates out there. But if the Eagles were to go with an internal option, they could go Loeffler. But I think they need to go outside of the organization. I even said this after last year when Kellen Moore took the head coaching job with the New Orleans Saints. I always think it's best when you can bring outside ideas and marry that with some of the beliefs that you have internally as an organization. Daboll has coached Jalen Hurts before. He's helped to develop Josh Allen. He has worked under the likes of Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. And what he did with Josh Allen in Buffalo was really impressive. Like, Josh Allen coming out of Wyoming was not an accurate quarterback. He was very raw. And Brian Daboll helped to develop him into a really good player. Todd Monken, the offensive coordinator for the Ravens, he's got some head coaching interviews over the last couple of cycles. He used to be the OC at the University of Georgia, and he's going to get some interest as a head coach. But some people have started to call him like the Vic Fangio of the offense, in the sense that he's probably not going to get a head coaching job for another organization if you want stability there. And he's done some great things with Lamar Jackson. Davis Webb, a part of the Sean Payton tree, longtime backup quarterback at the NFL level. Anytime you're working under Payton, you can catch my eye. Mike McDaniel would bring some really creative and modern-day concepts to this team. I do worry about how he couldn't manage games with the Miami Dolphins. He couldn't beat good opponents. He couldn't have his offenses performing in the cold. His challenge record on replays was also awful, but sometimes some of those concerns can go away if you're not the head coach and you're just focusing on calling plays. Another candidate who is starting to catch my attention is the Rams pass game coordinator in Nathan Scheelhaase. Now, he used to play college football at Illinois as a quarterback, and he is known as a scientist for designing and calling plays for that Rams passing attack, which the last 2 years, thanks to him, has been one of the top passing attacks in the NFL. You take somebody from that Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan tree, and there you go. You get the pre-snap motion. You get a diverse route tree. You get a dynamic play caller in there who is up to date with what works from a modern-day standpoint at the NFL level. But Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts are going to have to be malleable here. They have erred on the side of being conservative. And sometimes Jalen Hurts doesn't want all the pre-snap motion, and he doesn't want all the creativity. He wants to keep it simple. But he has to be willing to go outside of his comfort zone here, and that's what this type of hire would be. If Kevin Stefanski doesn't get a head coaching job, I think that he will, two-time coach of the year, he could become an intriguing candidate. But if you have a good year in 2026, he's gone. Now, the ultimate goal, compete and win a title. You compete and win a title with the likes of a guy like this, then it's worth it. But then you're talking about the same situation here about a year from now. Who do you want the Eagles offensive coordinator to be? Drop me a name or names down below in the comments section. Share your thoughts, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.